Hey everybody, it's Mr. McQuaid here from Action Karate. I'm here with the amazing Master Chip Townsend. Chip Townsend, how are you doing today, sir?
I am amazing, and how are you? Not to be too redundant with my words, I'm good. How are you, man?
I've, I'm awesome. I'm really excited for this. For those who know me, they know that I tried to do this with you about a year ago, maybe a year. It had to be at least a year ago, but
It's been a while.
yes, sir. But neither of us were too tech savvy, and we tried to figure it out, and it just didn't work. And then a couple weeks ago, I started thinking to myself, "Oh, we're doing this Zoom thing. It can easily record and pull video. What the heck? Why not try again?" Um,
Right?
so I'm really excited for this. So Chip Townsend, a lot of art people at my school know you specifically because of you're the guy who broke the bat that's hanging up in our office. Um,
Right?
but for those who don't know you, can you tell me just, what style you teach, what's your rank? And I heard something really awesome when I took your class about a week and a half ago. Whenever I was in on your class, you explained that Team Chip is actually an acronym. So if you could go over what each letter of that word means, or what each letter of that sentence means, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. I can do that. So, yeah, my name is Chip Townsend, and I started my martial arts journey 13 years old in 1985. So a long time ago, man. So I started as a kid in Tae Quon Do, and the backside story to that is just for people that don't know, I have a prosthetic eye. So I lost an eye when I was 3, and I didn't get to play t-ball and baseball and some of those other things, and they let me play Lord Dribblers basketball one time, and the quarter changed or the half changed, and so the baskets changed, and I didn't even know, so they threw me the ball and I ran and scored in the wrong basket. And so it's like I was not destined for sports, really, I guess, you know. So anyway, with that said, I started. My mom had at one point said, "Hey, she had a brother that boxed, and so she's like, maybe you could be a boxer, you know." Anyway, they wouldn't let me box because I have an actual hard prosthetic, right? And so I don't want to say it held me back, but it definitely affected the kind of the direction of life at times based on some decisions that had to be made. But it's never really been a handicap, I guess, because I grew up with it, or I don't feel like it is. So with that said, I started in Tae Quon Do. I was driving down the street where my school that I own, our main location that we own currently is, and I drove by and I saw it and I said, "Mom, I really want to do that." And she pulled in and signed me up, and that was in June of 1985, and I've been there
Awesome.
ever since.
Very, very cool, sir. And what does each letter of Team Chip stand for?
Okay, you can see it above my head back there, the logo. Okay, so Team Chip, the backside story to that real quick is in 1995, I got the opportunity to buy the martial arts school from my instructor and kind of take it over. And it was called Master Lim's Taekwondo and Hapkido Academy. So my original style was Taekwondo, and that's what I grew up in. But we did a lot of joint manipulation, sweeps, and some basic Hapkido stuff as well. And I guess 2000 had the opportunity to do some competing, and being out. I got some ESPN coverage and some bigger exposure outside our city. And so we realized one day that, across ESPN, it says Chip Townsend and Team Chip, and the name Team Chip was an accident also because we were filling out a biography for ESPN so they could talk about us in a competition. And I asked my guys, because it said team name, and I look around and I go, "We don't have a team name. What's our team name, guys?" And someone went, "Team Chip." And some of the other guys went, "Yeah, Team Chip." And I went, "Are y'all sure?" And they were like, "Yeah, just put Team Chip on there." So I did. Anyway, flash forward, we're seeing that go by on ESPN, and we're like, there's a disconnect between what our school was called and the name Team Chip. So anyway, progress forward to the acronym. We want everything that we do to have a purpose and have a meaning, right? And we feel like
Sure.
that. I feel like I'm kind of living my calling by being a martial artist and a teacher and an instructor. So we put a lot of thought into what could Team Chip be that goes even deeper. So the T stands for Teachable. We encourage our students, no matter what level you're at, no matter what you do, you're always a student, and not just to be able to be taught, but yet to be hungry to learn, right? So the E stands for excellence. We attack everything we do with excellence, from making our bed first thing in the morning to carrying out the trash to doing homework to whatever it is that we do. The A is accountable. It means that no matter what, you can count on me. If I say I'm going to be there, I'll be there. If I, commit to something, I'm committed. I'm in. My word is platinum. The M is motivated, and basically, I'm self-motivated. And so we kind of think of me being, when I think in terms of me, I am teachable, I am excellent, I am accountable, I am motivated. These, for me, that the first four kind of feel internal. And I know my why, I know my motive, so therefore I'm driven on my own. The C stands for courtesy, nice to everybody, kind, polite. H is honest, always tell the truth, no matter what. I like to tie it to integrity. We're integrated, we're one. We don't change. I walk into this crowd of younger people, I don't change who I am versus maybe a more mature group over here or whatever. That's really important. The I stands for inspiration. And I think sometimes people go, well, why motivated and inspired? We think of the inspiration as being more external. When you walk into the room, be the person that hopefully people go, they get inspired, they take a deep breath, because you're here, they're happy you're here, not, oh no, they're back. And then the P is perseverance. When you have trouble hitting the TEAMCH and I in your struggle, remember, you got to persevere and go back and keep grinding to make it happen. So it's kind of the flow, I guess.
Yes, sir. That was excellent. I just remember being in your class, which reminds me to thank you again for inviting me to that. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, and I remember hearing that and thinking like, wow, I gotta ask him, because I remember hearing a couple of them, like the I am the inspiration, and that kind of really stuck with me. And I wanted to ask you more about that. So that was really cool. Thank you for sharing that. My next question is, I remember a few years ago, and it's funny because like we've only met once. I've only met you one time when you came to Action Karate years ago. And
right.
My fiance and I were talking a few weeks ago, and she said, how many times have you met, how many, I see Master Kovar a few times a year. I see, I've seen Master Rappold a couple times, and those are just a couple of the names that I kind of group you into, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And she said, how many times have you met him? And I said, well, only once. I've only met the guy once, but there's something I'll never forget. Like, you taught at Action Karate in Feasterville, PA, with just like some of the most intensity and passion. And I've honestly never seen that in my life. Like the energy of your voice, the inflection, just everything about the way you taught screamed, I am a martial artist and I love doing this and I love being here. And I didn't have to question that at all. And I kind of like latched on it. I think that's why I was so looking forward to this years after we met. Now, that being said, being so energetic and high energy, there has to be some sort of, in my mind anyway, and you might think otherwise, which is strictly based on opinion, I think, burnout. Do you ever have burnout from martial arts or from teaching? If you do, how do you handle it? And like, what are your general thoughts around the word instructor burnout, or like burnout in your job or career? Because you've been doing this a long time. So what are your thoughts on
that? Simply, if you love what you do, you never really work a day in your life. Now, I know that's cliche. And there's some other realities attached to that. I absolutely believe that people can get burned out and overworked and all of those things. I think that I also think that it's oxymoronic to think that we ever strike a real balance in life. We strive for balance, but I don't think we ever reach balance. Because, if I'm working on my physical, my mental, my spiritual, I'm working on these different areas, my social, relational, and all these different aspects. Every time I put emphasis or lean into one area, I tend to slack in another area. So I think there's a natural imbalance that we live in at all times, but we strive for balance. And the reason I say that is because, people talk about, burnout and being exhausted and being tired, and I get it. We have to work towards balance. In other words, once I work so many hours in the day, I kind of know when I've hit the end of my productivity, and I have to be able to turn that off. And is that easy? It is not. It is crazy hard when you love what you do. But you made comments about me being a highly energetic instructor and teacher. I'm a spiritual person, and I believe that God put me where I'm supposed to be, and I don't think He made choices for me in my life and put me here, but I think He allowed doors to open and close that guided me to where I am, because I get to choose my own path. And but I feel more confident every day that I'm doing what I do. And the reason I say that is because when you're doing what you are supposed to be doing, and the more confident you grow in that, the easier it is to be passionate about it. So a lot of times people ask me, they say, why are you so energetic? Why are you so on fire when you're in front of people? And I simply just say it's because I have a passion for doing what I think God put me here to do, one, and two, I have a passion for martial arts. And there's another little thing. I don't know, the person that I'm teaching, the group that I'm teaching, this may be their last time on the mat. I am either encouraging them to stay and travel closer to being a black belt, or going beyond where they are as a black belt, or I'm encouraging them to walk out the door, kind of sort of is the way I look at it. And I never want people to look back and be like, well, yeah, that guy taught a class once and I was really kind of done, right? So I don't know. I take a lot of responsibility, I guess, for how the students respond. I feel like I'm kind of answering that question all over the place, but I think that whenever, sorry about that, there's some music.
Oh, that's okay, sir.
But I think that when you truly love what you do too, it makes it easier to want to be there and continue to work. And I'm going to attach this all to one more thing.
Yes, sir.
As a man in my life, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, and I'm a parent. I have these responsibilities. And so for me to get up and go to work every day is part of my responsibility, is the way I see that. That also fuels my passion, because I take very serious that, and not that no one else doesn't, but I take very, very serious that responsibility as a man of stepping into my role as a leader in my family, and doing my part. I hope that makes sense. So all of those things combined, the passion for what I do, how much I love what I do, feeling like I've been called here to do this, and more comfortable with that every day, balancing that with, the responsibility of being a husband, a father, and a dad, and setting an example for my kids that, hey, I have a tummy ache today, I'm going to go fire anyway. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go get busy. A responsibility to my wife as a husband to, and here's another thing. If people hear this, I don't want them to get the wrong idea, because we're a little bit of a conservative family. My wife, I tout regularly. She's in my brain. She's the brains behind a ton of what we do, but there's a balance that we strike between us, and she brings so much value and color to our life. And I'm the guy that just I'm like, I'll go get it done. You help point the direction and I'm on top of it.
Yes, sir. That's a fantastic answer. And I think there are, you mentioned answering the question in so many different ways, but I think that's because over the years you found all those different ways and you kind of have grown to adopt it into yourself. And I think that just shows that it's something you really are passionate about. So speaking of passion, my next question, I mentioned this earlier, we have that board hanging up. So any of our fellow action karate students, I think we have a few different bats in multiple schools that we have. And, we always see that bat. And for anyone who's watching who hasn't seen a Chip Townsend video, please go YouTube him and you'll see him accomplish all these crazy breaking records. It's clear to say that you have a passion for breaking, a passion for breaking boards and bats and records, dare I say. But it seems you have a passion for that. So how did that start? And what do you think what kind of role do you think your breaking plays into you becoming a better martial artist?
So that's a pretty deep question, and there's a lot of pieces to it. So I'll try to be concise.
Sure.
Uh, Earlier in my martial arts career, I did have a huge passion for breaking, and I still do to an extent. Uh, Again, I made the comment that I feel like some doors have kind of been open and closed in my life. So
Yes, sir.
early on, I traveled and point fighted some. I transitioned because we had a Tae Quon Do background into Olympic style Tae Quon Do sparring, and so I went to the Olympic Training Center, did some fighting, and I really tried to embrace being the leader in my martial arts school. And we just had this single little location with a handful of students, and I wanted to be the best I could be for them, but for myself, for my family. So I'm grabbing hold of these things. So the breaking thing kind of was maybe one of those doors that popped open that we didn't see it in the right away. Like, what is this? My wife called me one day. I was at our little martial arts school here in Texas, and I don't know, I'm cleaning, getting ready for the day. I'm not sure what I was doing. And she calls me and she goes, "Hey, I'm watching ESPN and there's this breaking competition." And my first thought was, why are you calling me to tell me about a dance competition? I thought it was like break dancing. I'm like, what is this, right? Why? I couldn't hear the beat of a song that hit me in the head. Why are you telling me, right? So I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, no, not dancing, like boards and bricks and stuff. They're like breaking, like martial arts. I was like, oh, okay. So why did you call me to tell me that? I mean, that sounds cool. And she was like, you're good at that stuff. And I was like, okay. And I said, so that's cool. I said, maybe find out who sanctions it. So she reaches out, International Sport Karate Association, finds the director of the breaking area. And she talks to him and he goes, yeah, it's an invite only. It's this kind of special event. And, maybe send me a video of some of the stuff you've done. So we kind of then go, okay, this is a little exciting. So we patched together some movie. I don't even remember how. Took a couple of VHS recorders and plugged them together and found a way to come up with some breaks from some demos and testings I had done, and overnighted it to them. And the next day he calls me and he goes, hey, your video just came and will you come compete? I was like, sure. So that lit a fire. Like, I want to be good. I had no idea what I was walking into because the first year I competed in 2000, I had not yet even seen a breaking competition. So I walked in, I asked the guy, his name was Mr. J Boatwright, a super nice guy. I said, hey, what do I do? And he said, just pick like your 6 best breaks and come do them on the stage. And I went, okay. So I did 6 breaks. Anyway, I placed like 4th or 5th that year out of like 19 competitors from around the world. And it kind of lit a fire, like, okay, there's potential for me here. And so I went back and went to work. But at that point, I want to qualify all of this with, we began to see an opportunity to expand our reach by using the platform, because the excitement then became, wow, did I make the ESPN cut? Because not all the breakers got a clip on ESPN. And then it was like, wow, did I make the cut? And if people see that, what are they going to see from me? And who do they see? What are we representing? And so all that began to kind of weigh heavy on us. So we began to see, I think, kind of an opportunity to exponentiate our reach from this little place in Texas, and felt a very big responsibility in reaching out to maybe reach out with a positive message. And if we're going to be role models, be hopefully good role models, if that makes sense. So.
Yes, sir. That was great. Great answer. I know, I just remember specifically that was the thing that you came to Action Karate for, and I was really excited. Yeah. And it's still on my bucket list to break a bat one day. Still on my bucket list, sir.
We're going to get that done. So yes, I have to say too, it's always unbelievably humbling and honoring to get to hear things like there's a bat hanging in our school, or we remember something from something you taught, because you always walk away from those things kind of wondering what kind of impact, or did I, in my mind, for me as a spiritual guy, I think, did I do what God wanted me to do there? Did I plant a seed? Did I leave something that was positive? And if I did, I know it wasn't all me. It was gifts that I'm given, but at the same time, so it's very humbling to get hear that, to see that, and so I'm honored and appreciate that feedback.
Yes, sir. Just another little tidbit from that. The one thing that you mentioned specifically that day that stuck with me was the word teachable. It's something I use all the time in everything, in our classes, in my own life. I try to be teachable in every aspect of my life. And that is honestly a word I didn't really think about until that day. So you changed my life in that way specifically. So thank you for that.
That's so awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So we had a lesson of the week about you a year or so ago, and it's still in our rotation. It's about the story that I heard on Whistle Kick podcast with Jeremy, who's an amazing guy, amazing podcast.
Right.
If you guys haven't ever listened to that. And you talked about the the time when you were breaking and you broke your arm, and your wife had said, and this is such a cool story. And to me, it really embodies what like a great partnership in a family is supposed to be like. Hey, I'm going to support you, but I'm also going to hold you accountable. Right. And, and everyone thinks that you're, as I'm telling the story, everyone thinks, oh, his wife's going to say, let's go to the hospital. Let's fix your broken arm. Well, you could do anything in 6 seconds. And I think that is just such a cool lesson. And I just love that story. And, I try to embody that in my relationships. Anyway, what I'm getting to is that my fiance and I are expecting our first in September.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
That's life-changing and awesome.
Yes, sir. So being a martial artist and a business owner, obviously I'm super beyond excited, but also scared and terrified. It's a hard balance of the business and family life and everything like that. So I guess my question for you would be, as a family man, what do you think are some of the most important things in terms of handling a business, plus also, having kids that are young? I'm sure it was a lot harder when they were young. How did you handle the balance when they were young, and how do you handle it now that they're instructors, or some of them are instructors? I don't know.
Right. So that's a good question. It's, gosh, it all started with me whenever I negotiated my first hourly wage with my dad when I was 4 years old. And I tell people that, and, of course you get the no way. Yeah. It was a fun thing. It wasn't like I wasn't a worker, and he knew that. He was teaching me a lesson. He was teaching me about earning my keep. And so basically what happened was, Dad, I really want to make my own money, because I was seeing him pay his employees, because he was self-employed. And it was so exciting to me that I could go and I could work and get paid, right? And have my own money. And so he lovingly went along with that and was like, sure, let's do this. And so we negotiated this, wage for me when I was 4 years old. And he would give me these little jobs around the shop and go move that pile, sweep that corner. And, most of the time I was playing, sidetrack, dilly-dallying. But at the end of the day, he taught me, you write down what time you start, you write what time you finish, and, I'll check that off every day and we'll make sure you're on track. Anyway, so he taught me a lot of stuff. So the point is this: owning your own business to me is a gift. It is an absolute blessing. It's one of the scariest things in the world, because you and I are 100% commission. We're that sales guy that works for someone else maybe, but he makes only commission. So he only makes what he works for. It's the same thing when you're self-employed. If you don't put in the work, you don't make it. And there's another thing too, a lot of times my brain's kind of going everywhere. Many, many times there can be two businesses in the same part of town, and this guy's failing and this guy's booming. This guy's making better decisions. That's it. He's making better decisions. He's promoting himself better. He's working harder and creating better relationships, whatever that is. And so it kind of goes back to this teachable mindset. But how do I strike a balance in that? I was blessed. We were blessed because my wife is very much a big part of our business. So our babies grew up in our business. So my 20-year-old, who's in her 3rd year in college right now, is also our chief instructor at one of our locations. And she's a rock star at what she does, and she loves it. And we were not afraid to have the kids there, in their little bouncy chairs in the side at the office. And whenever we would take a break, we take them and play with them and do stuff with them. But when they're passed out from nap time, we're overworking. And so you just learn to balance that and have them there close by. And the upside to that is, I think for them, is they saw and see as they grow up what work is. They're living they're not doing the work, but they're in the work. And every chance we get to engage them and, hey, buddy, go over there and take that trash out there and dump it real quick. And they learn, and we teach them, you're contributing to our family. So anyway, all that said, but when we come home at night, we shut off and we're a family, and it takes effort. But at the same time, it's very, very doable. I hope that kind of makes sense. So.
Yes, sir. And I just have a couple more for you, sir, and then we'll wrap this up in a couple of minutes. But I do want to mention, I feel like occasionally you might be thinking to yourself, man, I'm so scatterbrained. I have this answer here and this answer here. I want to take you back about a year or so ago. I visited Chris Rappold, and I did an interview with him. And he said something that made me laugh really loud. He goes, all right, I'm going to try my best to answer the 24 questions you just asked me in that one question. So,
Master Chris is so awesome. And he's right, because can I just say, I think that because we've been teachers for so long, right? That, you're talking about being teachable. For me, I have sometimes a hard time training that off with my kids too. It's like, they mess up and I set them down and I go, what did you learn there? It's like, there's a lesson for you and let's make the most of that lesson. So anyway, and I think also as communicators, when you're on a mat and you're teaching a 3-year-old and a 73-year-old, and maybe they're in different classes, but still I've got to learn what and how to say and communicate in a way that connects with 3 and 73 or 83
sure.
or 33. And so then as we communicate, we tend to kind of communicate from all different angles, trying to make sure the message gets through. So anyway.
Yes, sir. I just thought that was really funny. And I'm like, I just want to make sure he knows it's not always just his brain. It could be the way I'm asking a billion different questions, because I'm so excited for this.
Your questions are great. It's me. I am everywhere.
No worries. So just 2 more questions, sir, and then we'll wrap this up. Who are your influences in martial arts? You're an inspiration for a lot of people in the community, in the martial arts community, myself included. Who are your inspirations, sir?
Man, that's tough. There are a lot of them. Right now you are, because we're having this opportunity to talk, and the things that you're saying are making me better. For instance, when you say that the lesson that I shared on teachability helped you, in my mind, I'll be going to my notes in a minute, kind of refining that mattered. Does that make sense? And
yes, sir, I appreciate that.
Yeah, for me, it's I can give you some names. Obviously, my instructor who I grew up with was a huge influence and impact in my life. The work ethic that he helped to grind into me, the overcomer mindset that he helped to grind into me. He knew I had a prosthetic eye, so there were times he would blindfold me, pull me out of a class, blindfold me, and put me on a heavy bag and say, since when you turn that way, you can't see over your shoulder, no peripheral vision, you're just going to kick blind for a while. Here's the heavy bag, use your hands, find it, and work on the bag, And so that, again, kind of that overcomer, hard work mindset was built into me by him. His expectations of technical solidity, for lack of better words. I don't want to say perfection because no one's perfect, but foot control and chamber details and making sure you're keeping the hands up and hitting hard. And that was a huge impact. So I can never take that away from him. And his name was his Grandmaster Young Sun Lim. He's just this little Korean guy that came to the U.S. and a sweetheart that opened school, and I fell into his lap kind of and learned from him. So that's where it started. And then Hanshi Dave Kovar is just a massive impact on my life. Matt, you mentioned Master Chris Rappold, another massive impact. John Gaston, man, there's just so many. Chris Herman up in Seattle, Washington, Matt Rosales, Mike Guido, Jim Dryberg, Chance Burleson. Chance Burleson's father is Pat Burleson. They're about 3 hours away from me, and so I get the opportunity to kind of go hang out with Chance, and I've got to spend a little bit of time with his father, who's like setting with kind of an encyclopedia of martial arts and history and stuff, which is cool. So, man, it's really hard to say. You know, spending time on the world's largest class Saturday, getting a chance to visit, which I see Mr. Mike chat, you know, once a year usually, typically, and you know, getting to kind of spend some time with him. You know, just all of those things to me sharpen me. But I want to close this section out with this.
Sure.
I was fighting. I was fighting in an Olympic style Taekwondo tournament over in the Dallas area, which is about 3 hours away from me. And I had stepped out there to challenge myself. It was, I want to say it was like the Texas State tournament. And at the time, Taekwondo in Texas was massive because everybody wanted to try to make the Olympic trials. And so I was doing it to kind of test myself. And I'll never forget this. I trained and I trained and I worked and I trained footwork, and I'm 6'3", and so I thought of myself as slow, and so I was working on speed, trying to be fast, and I'd done so much stuff to work on that. Anyway, a guy is following me around as I'm warming up, and he's videoing me, and he comes over and he has a crazy strong accent, and he was basically from Russia. And he said, I'm over here with some students. And he said, I was watching you move. And he said something too that impacted me tremendously. He said, when I watch you, he said, you're a heavyweight. He said, you're really big. He said, but you move like a lightweight. And it made me feel really good. I was like, wow, that's awesome. He said, and he asked me, he said, can I continue? He said, can I follow you around and film the way you move? And I said, sure. You know, you know, this was pre-ESPN. I'm still nobody, but I was nobody for sure at that point. I'd never done anything very big. So I'm just like, wow, I'm kind of honored, right? So it's hugely impactful. So I began to dig in and think, what made me this way? What made me want to work that hard? Not good, but what made me want to work hard? And I began to think back as my students, young students, came up behind me on the mat. I have a few that I can name in particular, but there were a bunch of them that worked their way up for 3, 4, 5 years. They earned their black belt, and then they join our demo team and they keep going. And I would find myself demonstrating stuff for them. And I would look back and think, oh my gosh, little Vincent over there is as fast as I am. I've got to step my game up because I need to stay in front of him. And so some of my biggest martial arts influences were my students, because that hunger to lead them from the position of the front and leadership, and not kind of, I don't want to say fall back, and I don't want this to come across, I've been ridiculed for teaching my students too much by sometimes older school instructors that are like, oh, don't teach them all the secrets. I'm like, why? I want them to be better than me, right? And so, but my students had a huge impact on me and my work ethic, because I had a huge sense of responsibility that if I'm going to be in front of them and expect from them, I need to be able to deliver for them as well. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, sir. And I think that is the best possible answer to close out our session, sir.
Cool. Very cool.
Well, Master Townsend, I want to say thank you so much. This really meant a lot to me. I was really looking forward to this for the past year since we tried to schedule it originally. But I'm really,
sure.
As crazy as this whole pandemic thing is, I'm really happy that this is something that came out of it. And now I can look fondly on this memory when everything else is going crazy outside of us. So thank you so much. I will let you get to your team meeting. It was an absolute pleasure. And
yes, sir.
Hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too, Robert. Thanks so much for having me on. And what a great honor it is to be here with you and share with you, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Have a good day.
Have a great one. All right, bye.
Yes, bye-bye.